Welcome to the Women Who Lead Summit. Are you ready to get inspired, empowered, and elevated? These powerhouse women are bringing their wisdom, their stories, and their game-changing strategies just for you. So if you're ready to level up, I know I am. This is the Women Who Lead Summit. Let's do this. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Nina Perez, and welcome to the Women Who Lead Summit. I am so excited because today I am honored to host the amazing Elizabeth Pritchard. Now, Dr. Pritchard is an international keynote speaker, a researcher, a leadership coach. She is all things. I just love this woman. She's amazing. So as the co-founder and director of Women Authentic Leadership Training Institute, which is the WALT Institute for short, she has spent over 3 decades cultivating authentic leadership among women executives and leaders. So overcoming childhood adversity, Elizabeth transformed her experiences into lessons of resilience and authenticity. Now, her expertise in neuroscience leadership and research inspires women to discover their influential voices and lead with confidence. So get ready to explore, y'all. Get ready, because this woman is amazing. I had her on my podcast, fell absolutely in love with her and what she does and who she is. So I want you to help me in joining the Dr. Elizabeth Pritchard to the stage. How are you? It's so good to see you.
Hi, I'm fantastic. I love this introduction. It's fantastic to the summit. It's so exciting to see so many people around the world, so many women stepping into their roles and people here to listen to them as well. Thank you, Nina, for having me here. It's very exciting to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. I know that we had some technical glitches and difficulties going on, but all good in the hood. All good in the hood. We have you streaming right now on YouTube and Facebook and all of that great stuff. So as people come on and start, making comments, we'll make sure to get to that. But I'm really, really grateful for you for being here and taking the time. I know you're in you're in Australia or New Zealand. Where are you?
I'm in Australia at the moment.
Yes. Australia, right. That's right. Okay. So I know that you are far away, but it's like the next day for you, actually. So I am really glad you're here. And I'm gonna give you the floor. I'm gonna give you the stage, and you go on ahead and give us this amazingness. I know we're talking about unstoppable leadership today, so I'm excited for all of that. So off we go. Here we go.
Fantastic. Kia ora koutou. So greeting you wherever you are joining us around the world. And did you know that you are in exactly the right place, right here, right now? You are in exactly the right place for learning and being right here to take something forward and become unstoppable. I love that word. It is so incredible, because even though every leader, and we know that we're all leaders, regardless of what your title is or what your job is. We are all leaders because we all lead ourselves first. Every leader has those moments when they think, oh my gosh, I've failed. Oh my goodness, this is really hard. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what to do. Every leader has those moments. But the beautiful thing is that when we as leaders step into our unstoppable and unshakable self-belief, it doesn't matter that we've failed. It doesn't matter that we're out of our comfort zone. It doesn't matter that we haven't done something before, because we step into our truth. And this is what I want to share with you today. When we reframe, refocus, and refuse to give up, this is stepping into your unstoppable, unshakable self-belief. So let me ask you a question first. And if you're doing this at home, I want you to be really open and honest with yourself. If you're doing this in the workplace, if you're doing this in the car, it's really good to actually do this action yourself, if you can. If you're driving, maybe not. So I want you to answer this question for yourself really honestly. Has there ever been a time when you felt like everything was falling apart and you absolutely didn't know what to do? Yep, when I ask people this in any setting around the world, nearly every person in the room, when they're being honest with themselves, go, yep, these moments I've doubted myself. I didn't know I had what it took. I didn't know if I could actually step up and step in and step through things. And so the beautiful thing about this is that you're not alone. Let me share some statistics with you so that you realize and recognize that you're not alone in this. So in 2020, Stanford University did a review of 62 studies of over 14,000 participants. And yes, some people put a label on this type of thing. Some people call it imposter syndrome. We don't here at WALT Institute. But this study was about the people who had ever felt imposter syndrome. And up to 82% of those 14,500 people had felt inadequate or lacking self-belief at some stage. Another study by KPMG in 2023 identified that up to 75% of women executives had had those feelings as well. They had felt inadequate or lacking self-belief. Now, we don't need to jump into a label, and we certainly don't need to jump into calling ourselves and having a syndrome. However, recognizing that these feelings of, I'm not sure what to do, or I don't know if I can do it, that lack of self-belief is something that people feel. And within that moment of that feeling, it's just become a pattern. So all the things that have happened in our lives have created these patterns. Now, they're not good or bad or right or wrong. They're just a pattern. And within that pattern, we get the opportunity to either keep moving through it or staying stuck in it, and staying stuck in the story and the labels and the words that we use. So I realized I absolutely have felt like this many, many times. And I'd love to share with you how I got through that, because I realized that being stuck in that was going to cost me a whole lot of pain within that. So today I'm here to talk about how you can shift through these feelings and step into being unstoppable, step into becoming unshakable in your self-belief. We don't need to put a label on it. And we can absolutely step through it with courage, with certainty, and with confidence. I was 39 years young, and I thought I had it all together. I had a career. I was recognised in my profession as an occupational therapist. I was married with 2 beautiful teenagers. I was the president of the association and recognised across our country in New Zealand, Aotearoa, as an expert in my field. And on the outside, it was all going fantastically. But on the inside, I was crumbling. Every day I got up with the same feelings of dread, the same feelings of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. Oh, I'm not sure of this. Oh, I don't reckon I can do this. Oh my gosh, what if? All these what ifs kept coming in my mind. And it felt like I was dredging myself through mud. It was like it was pulling me back. It was dredging me back, and it was sapping the energy out of me every step of the way. And then I was at work one day, and I worked in a small office. It was a small office of about 6 desks. There was about 10 or 12 of us, but we were a rehabilitation team. Most of the time we were out in the field in people's homes and workplaces doing rehab. And this one day was very poignant. I realised that I needed some help. And so I had booked in with one of my colleagues, my teammate, who was a psychologist. And that afternoon I had an appointment with her. And as I walked up the stairs to her office, I had these feelings of dread. I had this absolute fear and foreboding. I was like, well, what's going to happen? What is she going to ask me? But more than that, I was fearful of what I'd find out about myself. And during that time, I recognized just how far I had plummeted. just how far and how the extent and the enormity of where it had come for me. The next day I went to see my GP, and as I was talking to him, and along with my psychologist friend Ginny, I was diagnosed with severe clinical depression and burnout. Now, this had been going on for months, and I was ignoring it, pretending everything was okay, trying to just keep going and keep that facade happening in front of my face. It was not a short-term thing, and these feelings just got bigger and bigger and more, took over everything I thought, everything I felt, and everything I did. And for 3 whole months, I was unable to do anything for myself. I was unable to get out of bed. I was unable to shower myself. I was unable to take care of myself in any way. And I was even unable to really speak. All of these things in my life that I had didn't seem to matter. They didn't matter anymore. Every day was like I was walking through a haze of illness and medication. And I recognized that there has to be a different way for this. There must be a way to end this. And daily I thought about how to ease the pain for my family. The reason I tell you this story is that for the weeks and coming months, which turned into years of recovery, I realized that I never really had self-belief. This is where it all stemmed from for me. And I realized that if I didn't change something, then it would cost me everything. It would cost me my career. It would cost me my relationships. It would cost me the respect and love from my children. And ultimately, it would cost me my life. So within this, I knew that there needed to be something that changed. There had to be a way that I could go through this, that I could change this in a way. Because I continually doubted myself with these patterns. And through this time of recovery, I recognized and I learned that I get to choose. I get to choose for myself. I don't need approval from them. I don't need a permission from them to be who I am, to be authentic, to be strong, to be courageous, to be me. I don't need permission from them. What I recognized in this moment was that I get to give permission to myself. I get to give approval to myself every single day. I'm not waiting for other people to give me feedback. I'm not waiting for other people to say, well, you can't do that. Oh, not to give those little nuances and little things that they come back with. And it's like, oh, and then we jump back into judgment and shame and blame, and we beat ourselves up. I love the saying from Lisa Nichols, which says, whatever anyone thinks of me is none of my business. I'm going to say that again because that's worth writing down. Whatever anyone thinks of me is none of my business. When we jump into the comparison, when we jump into the judgment, the self-judgment, the blame, the shame, the guilt, the judgment, we're just going down that spiral. And it's just a pattern. It's just a pattern. It's not good, not bad, not right, not wrong. It's just a pattern. And when we realize that it's just a pattern, we too, you too, all of us, amazing women across the world who lead, can step into our unstoppable, unshakable self-belief when we choose. So when I was going through all this, I realized the absolute cost. And I kept thinking, I can't do this. Nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody gets me. I can't do this. It's not going to work. I don't know how. I had all these thoughts in my head. They just kept on going and going and going. And I felt utterly broken and desperate and totally alone. And deep down, I knew that this was a pivotal moment in my life. I knew that if I didn't do something, if I didn't learn to change the patterns of responding, that I would end up at high cost. It would cost me absolutely everything. And if you stay in those patterns of lacking self-belief, it will cost you everything too. So what are the benefits of coming through this? We recognize that these types of setbacks can either be identified as a setback or big or tough or hard or difficult or trauma or anything like that. We can put those labels on it. Or we can go, this sucks. This really, really, really sucks. This is terrible. This is hard. This is horrible. Call it as is. Recognize it. Give honor to your feelings and believe that and recognize where you're at. And then the next thing is to shift that language, to reframe those thoughts, to change those patterns. I'm going to take you through something real soon about that. Because an obstacle is an invitation to grow, an absolute invitation that is your choice, and you get to choose to become and be unstoppable. Remember what I said before, no one else gets to choose that. You get to choose to become unstoppable. Yeah. And the benefits are amazing. You get to experience confidence and clarity and certainty in any situation. That's how you can set yourself up. You get the opportunity to create whatever you want in your career. You might want to start a business, or you might want to expand your business. You might want to change jobs or get out of a toxic situation. You might want to start a new hobby. Anything that you choose, you can create. And when you connect with yourself, because you believe yourself 100% of the time, even when the niggles show up, you have a strategy in place to grab those niggles and throw them away. You have a strategy to recognize and notice the self-talk and the language that you're using to yourself and flip it so that you support yourself first. It's just a pattern. We've learned the patterns of responding that have taken us down the spiral. We can learn the patterns and create the patterns of shifting into your self-belief almost like that. It takes one tiny tweak to shift a pattern, and I'll show you how. So as I came through this journey, I recognized that I had these tools to do this. Like the time when I secured our first corporate client. I remember I was invited to an event, cocktail party. It was at Parliament House here in Melbourne. And it was to announce the large grant that was just being gifted to the world of STEM and leadership. So science, technology, engineering, math and medicine. And as I went into that place, I think I knew one or two people, that was it. And it was this large gathering in a large building. And I walked in there with certainty and confidence. I was like, I know that I can find a way. I know that I will contact and talk with people, and I'm 100% okay with me. So when I stopped judging and stopped comparing and stopped the mind thinking of all these negative things, I had the power to become unshakable. And we were in there, I chose a drink and went on something to eat and was looking for people to talk with. And then when the time came and the announcement was going to happen at the front of the room, we all sort of gathered a little bit closer to the front of the room. And while the speakers were sorting themselves out, I was chatting to the person next to me. Her name was Elizabeth as well. And we got chatting about the food and the venue and our passions and desires about what we do in our workplaces. And I didn't know if it would come to anything. That wasn't the point. It wasn't attached to the outcome. But 3 months later, I and my co-founder, Christine, were in Elizabeth's office. She was the CEO of an institute. And within that, we were talking about how we could support their Emerging Leaders program with our authentic leadership training and coaching. And that became something that we did and moved through. And every moment in that meeting, I knew that I would be able to answer. I knew that I had the courage and the opportunity to deliver what was required. I absolutely had the confidence and self-belief that I could train her leaders. I set myself up. I listened to the language I was telling myself in my head and what was coming out my mouth. And more than that, I believed it down here. I believed it. I stepped into my truth. I stepped into my self-belief. I felt it. I heard it. I said it. I could taste it. I could smell it. Self-belief is all about all of your senses, not just positive thoughts, because they do not work on their own. So every day, I now set myself up with this self-belief. And it has become a habit that I step into. Yes, there's times when there's like, oh, this is a little bit niggly. It may be a new situation or a new person or a new thing that I haven't mastered yet. And within that, I get to choose my response. I get to choose the way I set myself up. I get to choose how I show up in every one of these situations. I recognize the thinking, and if it doesn't serve me, I grab it, throw it away. I recognize what I'm saying to myself. I grab it and flip it. And I step into my truth. I feel it. I know it. I believe it. I am it. So I'm going to take you through an exercise that is going to really show you, and you can experience this amazing time together with us as well. So first of all, I'd like you to jot down the scale of where you believe you are in your self-belief right here, right now. There's no good, bad, right, wrong, nothing like that. Where are you at right here, right now? Between 1, not very much self-belief, and 10, heaps of self-belief. Okay, between 1 and 10. Jot it down right now. Doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 or 6 or 9 or 8 or what, doesn't matter. Just recognize where you are right now. And then I invite you to stand up if you can, wherever you are, in your office, at home, wherever you are. If you're in the car, that won't work. You can do it in your mind. Wherever you are, I invite you to stand up, because this exercise is best when we're standing up. Okay, cool. Right. Now your self-belief resides here, just below your rib cage and above your belly button. This is in your sacral plexus area. This is where your self-belief resides in your body. Remember, we can't think it, we have to feel it. And so what I'm doing through this activity is to connect your head, your heart, and your body, so that's congruent, so that it's aligned. This is the neuroscience part, that is, you have to feel the things to believe it. You can't just think it and talk your way into it, because it stops at the bottom of your brainstem, and it's like, nah, not getting past. The body's having all these different chemicals and reactions. My head's thinking something different. Okay, so I'd like you to just pop your hands like this in that area, just below your rib cage and above your belly button. And I invite you to close your eyes if you can. If you're in a place that you can close your eyes, just close your eyes, just because it brings you back into the present, right here, right now. So I'm going to close my eyes during this, because that's the best way for me to take you through it. So pop your hands just here in the sacral plexus, solar plexus, sacral plexus, solar plexus area. And breathe in 3 times deeply. In, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. One more time. In and out. And keep your eyes closed if you can and your hands on that same area. And I want you to feel what's happening there, because beneath your hands, what you will find is that area is starting to glow and warm up. What we focus on, we get more of. And as you focus on that area, you will begin to feel it getting stronger and warmer. Breathe into that area again. Strength. Breathe in again. Confidence. Breathe in again. Courage. Just keep focusing on that area and feeling the way that it's increasing in brightness and lightness and strength and courage and warmness. And it's getting bigger and bigger. And identify a colour that it is for you. Might be yellow, might be all different types of colours. Identify a colour that it is for you. And see it like a big round dot that's getting bigger and bigger and brighter in its colour and intensity. Breathe into that space. Breathe out. Breathe in again. Breathe out. And as you feel that getting stronger and warmer and brighter and bigger, we're going to start putting in some thinking statements with it so that you begin to program and pattern your feelings of self-belief so that you become unstoppable. Breathe in again. And then I want you to say either to yourself or out loud, I've got this. Breathe out. Next one is I'm amazing. Breathe in. I'm amazing. And breathe out. Next one is I can do this. Breathe in. I can do this. Breathe out. Let's do it again, slightly faster. I've got this. Breathe in. I'm amazing. Next one's I can do this. I can do this. Yes. Let's do it again, a little bit faster. I've got this. I'm amazing. Breathe it into that area. I can do this. Breathe it into that area. Yes. And again, I've got this. Yes. I'm amazing. Yes. I can do this. Yes. And this time, at the end of each time you do this with your eyes shut, I'm going to get you to put your right hand up in the air and you're going to squeeze your fist at the end of that statement and go, yes, and feel it in every cell of your body. Let's do this. I've got this. Yes. I'm amazing. Yes. I can do this. Yes. And again, I've got this. Yes. I'm amazing. Yes. I can do this. Yes. One more time and feel it grow and expand in that area, getting bigger and brighter and more intense. I've got this. Yes. I can do this. Yes. I'm amazing. Yes. And feel the strength, the courage, the certainty, the confidence that you have created in this moment, and breathe into it and feel it and revel in that feeling of self-belief. You've got this. You are amazing. You can do this. Breathe in again to that area. And as you open your eyes, grab your pens and jot down where your self-belief has increased to between 1 and 10. 1, not very wonderful. 10, freaking amazing. Jot it down. You have created a new neural pathway between head, heart, body, cells to believe that you are unstoppable, that you can create every single day, even with just 15 seconds of going, I've got this. Yes, I'm amazing. Yes, I can do this. Yes. And then you go into whatever you're going into, a meeting, a courageous conversation, a presentation, whatever it is, you get to choose to go into it with your unshakable self-belief, because we have just created that right here, right now. This is how you become unstoppable in your leadership. You recognize that the thinking and the patterns and the things that I used to do are just patterns. I get to choose. You get to choose to step up, step forward into your self-belief and become the unstoppable woman you are today. Now, I have created an ebook for you, and it's got a link in it as well to take you through this exercise. You can do it either on paper or with the link that's in there as well, because you get to choose to become unstoppable. It's your choice. It's not about them or what they decide or their needing of approval, needing to give you approval or permission. It comes from here, and it sits in here. You get to choose to step into it. You get to choose to be unstoppable. And remember, you can. You are amazing. You can do this. Thank you. We've got question time as well.
There we go. I got it to work. That was amazing. And I stood up and did the exercise as well, because I think it is just so amazing. And I love that you started by talking to us about, you know, what other people say about us or whatever is none of our business, right? So you talked about how Lisa Nichols gave you that inspiration. And I couldn't agree with that more, because it was something I struggled with a lot, especially getting into leadership and getting into coaching. It started to become something that I realized was daunting, because you were thinking about what other people think of you. And I know that you talked about this exercise, the exercise we just went through, and all of that. And I'm wondering, how, how can we start implementing this more and more in our lives? And also, how did this help, with who you are? How has it impacted your life and what you're doing today?
Totally impacted my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all. I would still be out there comparing myself and judging myself and feeling like a failure every step of the way, regardless of what I had accomplished in life or have accomplished in life. It wouldn't matter, because when I continually compare myself with others, then I'm always going to find somebody who's doing stuff that's different to me, which I might give the meaning to. Remember, it's not the truth. It's just what I create as my own reality and meaning. I might give the meaning to, oh, they're better than me. They're doing this, they're doing that, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do that. Oh, I'm so terrible, blah, 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 blah. Then we get into that spiral. So that's where my life used to be. Absolutely. It was always wanting to get that approval from others to see that I didn't believe I had the ability to control my own life and make my own decisions, and I kept giving away my power within that. And so through that, I have absolutely learned to put these things in place. And it comes back to your first question, Nina, that how can we implement it? I set myself up every day. Within the first few minutes of every day, I'm either mindful or meditating. And it's like, what do I choose today? It's all about choice. It's my choice. It's not what happened yesterday. It's not what happened overnight. It's not how I feel or what just is going around me in the world. It's like, what do I choose? Who do I choose to be today? Who do I choose to show up as? And within that, this exercise is super, super useful. You can do it in like 15 seconds. You can just go, I've got this. Yes. I can just do it like that in 3 seconds. Yeah. And I'll do that when I'm going into something that's unfamiliar. It's just unfamiliar. I just haven't done it yet. And so recognizing the reframing of that supercharged language is super powerful. And you can just go into that. And when the niggles come up, because they still do. They do. Me, even
yeah.
I've been practicing for years. When the niggles come up, I see them almost instantly. And so I've been training myself to see them real quick and notice them without shame, blame, guilt, or judgment of myself. And so when the niggles come up, I literally often grab them from my head and I throw them away. It has been super useful for me.
Yeah. I actually, it's funny because I do that too, and people might think it's foolish, but I actually do that when a negative thought comes in it really does. When a negative thought comes or something that tells me I'm not worth it, I literally feel like I'm grabbing it, pulling it out and casting it down. And because I used to struggle with depression as well, depression and anxiety. And I'm just, I love that you were vulnerable and open about that in the beginning when you were talking to us about the depression and what you've gone through and not thinking you can, do it and all these kind of things. And I'm wondering how your experience is with all of that, right? Having that clinical depression and stuff in your life and that burnout, because one of the things that's been happening a lot is burnout. And I think it's an inundation of information and we just don't think we're good enough. So we try the next program and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And now we're completely burnt out. So I wanted you to talk to us about how that has shaped your leadership and how we can use it in our lives to reframe things so that we can stop burning ourselves out, because we're making those choices, to your point, right? We make the choices. So I think what I'm trying to say is I want us to make better choices, right? So can you lead us through that?
Sure. So some of the things, what I would do in a coaching session is ask what's behind that, what's behind that, what's behind that. So some of the things often burnout is a glib label that people fly around, and other times it's connected with clinical diagnosis. So there's all different levels of use of that word as well. So whenever anybody comes to me and says, I'm just on the verge of burning out, or I have burnt out, I don't want to do it again, or whatever, those sorts of things. So we look at, so what led up to that? What did you believe about yourself? And then what was behind that? What was behind that? What was behind that? And usually it's the things like I touched on were that I need approval from others. So I can't do this because, and that links into things like, burnout is often caused by doing multiple things for multiple people and not listening to the warning signs and then crash, bang. That's a very simplistic way of saying it, but that's basically where it comes from and goes to. And so if we look at what are those things that are your motivators, your internal drivers for doing those things, and it links back to our patterns and beliefs again, because I believe that I had to achieve to get approval. Now, this was an unconscious pattern that was created in my childhood, and it's not good, bad, right, wrong, or anything. It just is. It just is. And so the first thing is, it's like, oh, it's a pattern. So I keep saying yes to everything and not putting in a boundary because of A, B, or C. Doesn't matter what that is. The thing is that we've recognized it. And then it's like, okay, so do you want to stay there? Is it serving you? No, it's not serving you. It was not serving me to being a people pleaser. It was not serving me saying yes all the time. It was not serving me to go, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do that, because I thought I had to. And so recognizing what's behind that, and this is what I love doing in leadership coaching. It's like recognizing what's behind that without blame, shame, guilt, or judgment. And then it's like, okay, so let's set you up with this new pattern. Who do you be today? So what do you want your life to be? What do you want to have? And this is the beautiful thing that I've learned over, it was about 9.5 years of recovery for me to get to the stage of absolutely no medication. And I do not need medication. I will never need medication again for depression because I have some tools in place for this. Mm-hmm. I have learned that. I have made that decision. That is what I have chosen. Mm-hmm. And when I was going through this, I was in that state where all the doctors were saying, you will always have depression and you will always struggle with this. I was like, I'm not fucking going to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to stay in that. I don't choose to do that. And for me, I learned the tools. I learned what was the patterns that happen, and they keep coming up. Sometimes I'll snap at something or get irritable at something, or I'll go, oh my gosh, I'm not quite sure about this. And then I was like, hang on a minute. What's behind that? Okay, I'm trying to please that person, or I'm not listening to myself and I'm thinking that I'm not worthy, that I don't deserve to put that boundary in place, and go, no, I'm not going to do that today. Mm. And so all of these things, then we just help people to empower them basically to say no to things, to say yes to other things, to go, take that breath. Yeah. And to be who they be before they go off again.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a deep sense of authenticity and self-awareness, right? Mm. Because I sometimes I swear I sometimes feel like we live in an ultra universe, like almost like we live in the Matrix or something, right? Like we all have to like live a certain way, walk a certain way, do a certain thing, and so it becomes a little bit fearful for people to be authentic, to say, no, I don't like that, or I think like this, or this is actually not something I'm conforming to, and that becomes difficult, right? Because you, especially if, for all the women who are at this event, they're all either aspiring to be coaches or they're coaches already who want to just grow and expand in who they are, right? And just in that alone, to try to be authentic, to try to be truth, to try to speak to power, to try to like do all of those things becomes a lot, right? And so I wanted to ask you how to maintain authenticity, right? How do we do that when we are, in leadership, dealing with pressures, dealing with what people say we should do, how we should do it, when we should do it, how we should think. I think about that even more because we just, in the United States, we just went through this whole political thing, right? Mm-hmm. And it was so divisive. It was so divisive. It's so manipulative, and so done so poorly in my view. Right. I've even lost friends because if I didn't agree with certain, they were like, oh, I can't. And then and I'm talking about friends for 12 years, 20 years. Like that hurt me. Right. Because I was like, but I don't even believe in any of it. I think it's all bullcrap. I think we should take care of each other and not fall into the lies and whatever. But anyway, I digress. My point is that with all of the external pressures and expectations that are on top of us as women leaders who are coming out and trying to do our thing, how do we maintain that? How do we maintain being authentic? How do we do it afraid? How do we just do it? I mean, that's just not an easy thing for somebody who feels pressure.
Part of it is coming back to those three things that I was going through. It's like, what are you saying to yourself? Because the first thing is, if I keep saying I can't do it because, then you can't do it.
Oh, so
Because
good.
whatever you tell yourself
Yes.
is true.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If I keep saying I can't do that because they won't let me, I can't do that because that's not the culture of the company, I can't do that because it's too outlandish, I can't do that because they won't like me, I can't do that because whatever. They're just stories. They're just
Yeah.
stories and
They're just
narratives that we've
stories.
made up and we've chosen for ourselves in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. They're not
Mm-hmm.
right, wrong, good, bad. They're just stories. And so the how do you become authentic every day? You notice. You notice what I am doing, what you are doing for yourself. I notice what my thoughts are. I notice what my reactions are. I notice how somebody else is saying something or doing something and my reaction to them. They don't
Mm-hmm.
trigger me. I choose a reaction. And so when I notice all that without shame, without blame, without guilt or judgment on myself, then I have the opportunity to go, oh, that was interesting. I just had that conversation. I wanted to punch that person's lights out. I was like, what was that about? Where did that come from? And it's
Yes.
not in that
I get
shame stuff. I was like, how dare you not believe me?
Right. Oh my gosh. So
And
funny.
recognizing that, then in that moment, it comes back again to I get to choose. I get to choose to stay in that emotion,
Yeah.
stay in that reaction, stay in that pattern, or I get to choose to shift it. And honestly, it's one tiny tweak at a time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's not that you have to change everything. It's not that anything's busted and broken and we have to fix anybody. It's nothing to do with that. It's like recognizing the patterns from the past and going, okay, stop. I'm not going to bite my teenager's head off every single time she says blah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
just a pattern. She says blah, I say blah, we have explosions. My teenagers are all grown up now.
Yes.
But
It's funny though, right, Dr. Pritchard? It's funny how we forget we were teenagers too, and we did those things too. I totally forgot that when my kids were teenagers. I'm like, I was a perfect child. Yeah, right. You know, I think this is so refreshing, because what you're saying is listen, when you're in that, be aware of where you are, and then shift that, right? So what advice are you giving, someone right now who's listening, who's like, I understand that it sounds easy, Dr. Pritchard, but that's, I feel stuck in this a little bit, right? So I'm actually thinking, like, what advice would you give someone who is feeling stuck in that journey, like feeling like they can't really get past it, like something's keeping them stuck, right? There has to be something they can like quickly pause or get to. What would you have for them?
Mhm. This exercise does help with that, because it is shifting the pattern. It's disrupting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a pattern. If I feel stuck, I feel stuck, I feel stuck, I feel stuck, I feel stuck. I can't get past this, I can't get past it. It becomes a pattern. So thoughts that are repeated become a belief. And then
Right.
they create the patterns. So if we disrupt the thought, we can't do that without recognizing it first. So if it's like, oh my gosh, I just feel so stuck with this, I'm just not getting anywhere on this project or this conversation or whatever it is, or my career or whatever it is that you're wanting to sort of move through. And it's just like, okay, first thing, recognize the language. It is
Yeah.
super powerful, absolutely powerful. And that just takes, I said I'm a failure to myself 3 times today. Well, that's better than yesterday. I said it 12 times. And recognizing those things, grabbing them, shifting them, throwing them away, flipping them. I'm a failure becomes I'm learning to do this. I'm
Yeah.
learning to master this. If something goes, I can't do this, put a little word on the end of that. The little tiny
Yet.
3-letter word is yet.
Yet.
Yeah. I can't do this yet. And
Yet.
then change the whole sentence. I
Yeah.
am learning to do this. And those tiny tweaks, supercharging your language, flips things around, because every time you think a thought and say something to yourself, you release a chemical reaction in your body. And that chemical reaction creates different feelings and interactions within all of your cells and your muscles. And that's why when we go through this exercise of feeling it, hearing it, going, yes, I've got this. Yes. Every part of your body is going, I'm in congruence. I'm thinking and I'm training my body to feel it, and I feel it. I believe it. I can find a way. I am resourceful. What would it take for my next little tiny step to move through this stuckness? And then we throw the word stuckness out of our vocabulary. What would it take for me to move through? And then the second question, who do I be to move through?
That's so good. And I think, another important piece is collaboration and community. Because we can get stuck in our own heads, as you know, Dr. Pritchard, right? We just can get stuck in our own heads, and sometimes can't see our way out. I know when I struggled with depression and feeling stuck and anxiety and all of that stuff, and being that I have ADHD, I always have to catch myself because I end up going down the shiny object syndrome, and I'm always like have to pull myself back so I don't beat myself up. And so I wanted you to talk to us really quick before we wrap up is how these women who are here as the leaders that they are and are becoming, how do they create a supportive environment, right? Like, so how do they, where do they find a creative environment where they can just be authentic, where they, can have resilience, where they could be with each other, with themselves and with their team? I think that's so important. I always say coaches need coaches, like, doctors need doctors, and, everybody needs somebody. So how do we start to build that?
I think part of it is, again, coming back to knowing who you are and who you are being. Because the people that I used to connect with and be around and be part of, as I grow and develop and expand, many of them, like you said about your experience, Nina, have actually fallen away. They're like, oh, I can't be with you on that because you're thinking this or whatever. And sometimes it's just a natural attrition. Sometimes it's a purposeful attrition. That is like, oh, that person is just wanting to bring me back to where I was and keep me in the person and the place where I was because that's familiar to them. They just want familiarity. I remember somebody saying to me that you're not the person I knew 10 years ago. It was like, no, I'm not. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, right.
I don't want to be the same person that I was 10 years ago. I don't want to be the same person I was yesterday. I want to be better than that.
Yeah.
I want to learn a little bit more. I want to have another little tiny tweak of who I'm being so I can become unstoppable and unshakable in everything I do. And so within that, finding community is initially first starting with you. It's like authentic leadership starts with you.
Yeah.
Recognizing who you are being. Identifying what you want. What do you really want? What do those people look like, sound like, feel like? How do you interact with them? How do they interact with you? What do they give you? What do you give them? What do they bring to you? What do you bring to them? What is that collaboration like? And remember the patterns. We may have only ever had patterns where people want things from us or where we feel like we have to be the one that always initiates. Remember, that's just patterns and meaning and stories that we can change. Because if that's our story, that was like, but people always end up hurting me. It's a story, it's a pattern, and it has become a BS belief that doesn't serve you. So recognizing those, throwing them out, is like, what is a community for me? What does it look like, sound like, feel like? And I go into this place, it was like, are people do they have expertise in a different area to me where I can bring my gene?
Oh, the video froze a little bit. Hopefully it'll be back. Oh no, it's frozen for a while. I think that one of the most powerful things as Dr. Elizabeth Pritchard's Australian Wi-Fi is getting in order is also the fact that we can't be afraid of what someone's holding you to. So like she said, like when you start to grow and you start to develop your community, you want to make sure that you are also not keeping yourself stuck because you're so accustomed to the community you were part of that now to grow, you're feeling a little bit like you can't do it because it's not authentic. You can't be yourself. You can't show up. And that's actually harming you because when you are stuck in that where you can't move yourself forward or you think that you have to do it this way because that's what your friend said or that's what your family said or that's what your a community that you're a part of said, and now you're having trouble growing, that's also somewhere where you need to pay attention because I think that you may be wanting to grow, but keeping yourself, stuck in that you can't move forward in this piece, right? And so I will encourage you as hopefully Dr. Pritchard can come back on, but oh, there she is actually. She's right here. So Dr. Pritchard, I was just saying, all good, all good. I was actually just saying to everyone that we also have to be cognizant and aware of where we're keeping ourselves stuck because we need to fit in with our old community or with our old friendships or with our old whatever. Because sometimes you do, when you're in growth, if other people around you are not growing, that
Mm.
also can stump your creativity, it can stump your leadership, and you need to stop telling your stories, well, this is where I belong or this is what I have to do. Like if you're growing, then I think you should step authentically in that. And sometimes that means that other people may fall off. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And a rather sort of extreme case of that, I've experienced that where my marriage of 22 years, we went separate ways. And this was one of the main things. It was like I was growing and changing and morphing and expanding, and he wasn't able to do that at the same level as me. And it's not right or wrong. It just is. And it was at that time that it was like I want to go here with my life, and he was happy to stay there with his life.
Yeah,
And it's not that one is better than the other. It's he's on his own journey. He's absolutely on his own journey, and I don't get to judge that.
right.
And I'm on my own journey, and he doesn't get to judge that. And
Yeah.
so within that, absolutely, sometimes we grow and morph. And some of my best friends 20 years ago, I hardly even converse with. Just not because we've fallen out, not because of anything else, except we don't really have much in common anymore because
Right.
I've expanded and grown and I do things, and they have their stories. My story is about their story that they feel threatened. That's my story.
Right. Right.
Might be
Right.
true, might not be.
Right. Right.
But it's like people fall away. And being authentic in your leadership is being solid in your truth and
Yeah.
unshakable in your self belief. And it's not arrogance or ego or any of that. It's being solid in the truth that you are absolutely 100% feckin' okay as you are. And you get to choose where you go next. You get to choose who is in your life. You get to choose what you say next, how you respond next. And it's just these little tiny tweaks that expand and grow this. You don't do it all at once, it doesn't work that way. It's those little tiny tweaks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Because, I was thinking as you were talking earlier about, your authenticity and stepping in to who you are and knowing your strengths and knowing all that. And, I feel like I'm grieving a little bit, with the relationships that I've recently lost because I'm moving in a direction that is different than them, right? And they
Mm.
don't like it. They told me they don't like it. And I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with that because I cannot let them not liking something be my business. That's not my business. Now I'm going to carry that
Yeah.
with me. I'm going to carry that with me. But I realize that, because of those things, Dr. Pritchard, I have stopped myself a lot from growing in my leadership. I know I have, because I'm
Mm.
like, oh, I don't want to say that because if I say that, they might get hurt, or if I say that they might get offended, or they might not agree. Like I've definitely have found myself doing that in different friend circles, in different events, different things like that. And listening to
Mm.
you today has really set me free in that aspect. Like it really has told me, Nina, know who you are. Like pause for a second, ask yourself what it is you want to do, how you believe in that, what you can and cannot do. Like, don't stay in the negative space, because it's not helping in
Mm.
at all, right? And so I was writing so many things. I have so many notes here of all the things that you said, and because it was so powerful. And I liked when you said, jot down where you are in self-belief from 1 to 10 and all that. I'm going to do that on different scales of my life. Like, where am
Mm.
I in my health journey from 1 to 10? Do I have belief in
Mm.
that? Where am I in my
Yeah,
financial journey? Where am I in my business journey? That's really powerful.
beautiful.
So thank you for leaving all of those tools with us today, because I'm going to actually restream this in a couple of hours again, and I'm going to restream it again tomorrow. And of course it's in the Women Who Lead Summit, so they're going to have that recording over and
Mm.
over, because I think this is something that needs to be shared wide and high and everywhere, because the world tells us differently. The world tells us, do it like this if you want to be successful, do it like that, think like
Yes.
this, think like that,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
in group think, everybody think together, or you're
Yeah.
the outcast, that kind of thing. I've always been the outcast in a lot of ways, because every time somebody says, this is how we have to think, I'm the one that goes, but why? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was like that since I was a
Great.
child. That got me in a lot of
That's
trouble when I
wonderful.
was a child.
That's wonderful. That's so cool. And I think also what you touched on as well, Nina, is so poignant, because yes, we grieve for these things that we've lost. There's a
Yeah.
loss of friendship. There's a loss of relationship. Well, for me, I grieved for a long time. One of my daughters didn't talk to me for nearly 10 years. I grieved that relationship. I
Yeah.
grieved that loss. I grieved that hurt and that pain. And if I didn't do that, then I was pretending. And this is where the positive thinking sort of stuff doesn't work at all, at all, at all. It was like, because I can be grieving here and I go, it's okay, it's going to be okay, it's all good, just see it as an adventure. That's BS. Because in
Yeah.
that moment, I was distraught. I was in pain. I
Yeah.
was absolutely, totally in grief. And then I get to choose what's next. And so recognizing, calling it as is an absolute first component of it as well, because we cannot pretend. We cannot put fluffy icing on it and sprinkle rainbows and glitter on it and say, it's all good. And underneath it's a festering pile
Yeah.
of apples or something. It's
Yeah.
like we have to call it as is. And that's in our own lives, in our leadership, in our abilities, in our
Yeah.
health, in our finances, just like you said, Nina. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And the truth is later on you may say it's all good. Like you've been through trauma, I've been through trauma. We've bonded on that in our last podcast, and I realized all of those things, although I would never want to repeat it, nor do I want it ever done to anyone else, it
Mm.
was for my good. It helped me to be the
Mm.
woman I am today in those
Yeah,
aspects, right? And so
yeah.
maybe this, whatever we're going through now, if you are grieving a loss, or if you're looking to change and it might affect your lifestyle, it's okay to grieve that and to look at that and say, this kind of hurts. This is shit. I
Mm.
don't like this. But you also get to choose. You also get to choose if tomorrow you're going to stay in that, or if you're going to try to move ahead a bit, and then the next
Mm.
day ahead a bit, right? Because we can stay in it. I mean, you went through depression, I went through depression, and that means we stayed in it. We stayed in it longer than we should have. And our mind and our body and everything was just like, I don't like this feeling. And so we became depressed. Right. And
Mm.
so I'm so grateful for you and for your time. And although you are ahead of me a day or so, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful because
Yeah.
this was such an amazing conversation, and I wrote so many notes, and I can't wait to like share this high and wide. So thank you so much for being here. And before we wrap up, I'd love
Beautiful.
for all the women to know how to get in contact with you, what you have for them, all of that great stuff. I would love for you to share that with them.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, yes, come and join me at WALT Institute. So, WALT Institute.com. That's our website. You'll find all sorts of things on there. I also have created a special ebook for you for the summit, and Nina has the link for that. So it's Strengthen Your Self-Belief ebook, special for you, hot off the press as of yesterday. Actually, our designer finished it. And so that is for you to help you create this unshakable self-belief and become an unstoppable leader. Thank you.
So good. And I'm really excited because tomorrow I have another live with all of the women from the event. So I get to share that with them again tomorrow. And also the links for this. You are so amazing. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me. And, you know, this conversation today was a gift to me. It just helped me to think of things, and it helped me to reframe some of the woes I've been having, you know, like all of that, because this thing with my dear friend was just the other day, and it's like heavy on my heart, right? And so, but I couldn't back down with what I believe, and I didn't know how to navigate that, you know. 20 something years, 22, 25 years or whatever it is, of friendship hurts, you know, just kind of like the same you talked about your marriage. I mean, that hurts, even though, you know, it hopefully ended well, and you guys are both living the lives you want to live. It still hurts, you know. So I'm grateful for this conversation today. This was a gift. So thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you. So
Very
beautiful.
welcome. Thank you.
Oh, what a beautiful thing. Ladies, I will make sure to put all of her information below and the gift, as my team is building out the entire page for all of these amazing speakers and all of their gifts to you. I would highly recommend that you get this gift and that you connect with Dr. Pritchard, because I mean, hello, you can tell just by this one conversation, she's absolutely a phenomenal human being. And I actually have her on my podcast as well. So we will share that as well. So you can really go in there and listen to that, because, you know, when somebody's coming on to like elevate you and show you something and lift you up and put you in the right path and direction, pay attention. Just pay attention, because you don't have to be where you are if you don't want to be there. You have the choice. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and Dr. Pritchard. I love you ladies so much. Until next time.